Hi kids, Mr. Joseph's here. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Lab 4, Glass Analysis Principles. As an introduction, crime scenes often contain broken glass from windows, cars, glass vases, and numerous other glass items. Matching glass pieces with other glass pieces can often reveal patterns that will help explain a crime sequence. Numerous glass analysis techniques can be used. One specific technique, comparison of density, will be examined in this laboratory. So as a background, forensic scientists compare glass pieces in order to associate one glass fragment with another, and at the same time eliminate the possibility that other sources may be responsible for the glass fragment. Glass analysis has its greatest impact as evidence when the glass can be identified with only one source. Such a determination can only be made if fragments can be collected and physically pieced together in a perfect fit like a jigsaw puzzle. Since the probability of two pieces of glass from two different sources fitting together perfectly is low, it becomes compelling evidence when a perfect match is found. In many forensic settings, however, the physical pieces do not fit together easily. The forensic scientist is then left with other techniques that may not be as conclusive or compelling. One such technique involves determining the density of glass pieces and then comparing the density to those of known glass sources. The simplest comparative density technique is known as flotation. It is based on the principle that a solid principle will float in a liquid medium of greater density, sink in a liquid of lower density, and remain suspended in a liquid of equal density. In the crime lab, this is usually done in a density gradient. Solutions of decreasing density are placed in a long column, and then the object is placed into the column. By comparing the point of suspension, the density can be identified, and different glasses can be compared. As seen in Figure 1, the glass found at the crime scene has the same density as glass type C. So in Figure 1, we notice that the crime scene glass, it floats at the same level as the glass type in C. Density is a characteristic property of materials and pure elements or compounds. Materials can often be identified by their density. Density is defined as the mass of a substance per unit of volume. So density is mass divided by volume, and I'm sure you've heard of that before. Density is commonly expressed as grams per centimeter cubed or grams per milliliter. The density of pure water is 1.00 grams per centimeter cubed at 20 degrees Celsius. Objects with a density greater than 1.00 grams per centimeter cubed will sink in pure water. Objects with a density less than 1.00 grams per centimeter cubed, and oh my gosh, they did not put a cube there, very silly of them, will float in pure water. Alcohols having a density less than 1.00 grams per centimeter cubed, and some objects that float in water will sink in alcohol. Solutions such as sugar water have a density greater than 1.00 grams per centimeter cubed. The density of a sugar solution will increase as the concentration of sugar in the solution increases. If you have more sugar in the solution, it will become more dense, and more things will float in it. We're going to work with a 50% solution of sugar. In this experiment, the principles of density will be used to distinguish simulated glass pieces. They're actually glass beads. And once the properties of various beads are established, a bead found at the crime scene will be analyzed. So you're going to be given one, and you have to determine which of the four beads it is. So we're going to use this isopropyl alcohol, the sucrose solution, which is the sugar, and we already made that sugar water. We're going to have some distilled water, beakers, some crime scene beads, and graduated cylinders, and some paper towels. Okay. You're going to want to wear chemical splash goggles, chemical-resistant gloves, and chemical-resistant apron. We're just going to wear the gloves. Isopropyl alcohol is flammable. Don't work anywhere near any sources of flame. And wash your hands with soap and water, because not only this lab, but COVID. All right, so in this procedure, you're going to fill 100 milliliter graduated cylinder with 20 milliliters of distilled water. You're going to add 5 simulated glass beads A to the water and in the graduated cylinder. You're going to slowly swirl the water in the cylinder to make sure there are no air bubbles attached to the beads that would cause them to float instead of sink. Establish whether the A beads sink or float. Okay, and you're going to record the floatability of the A beads in the density principles worksheet. If the beads float, go on to step 6. If they sink, go to step 11. So if they sink, let's pretend they sink, and we'll go down to 11. If the beads sink, obtain a barrel-style pipette and some 50% sugar solution. Start adding sugar solution 1 milliliter at a time because these sink. Now we're going to increase the density of the liquid and try to get them to float. We're swirling between additions until the beads are all floating at the top of the solution in the graduated cylinder. Note the level of the liquid in the graduated cylinder when all the beads are floating. How much sugar solution did it take to get the beads to float? What concentration of sugar water and water caused the beads to float? Record those results in your worksheet. Okay. Now, I didn't test A, so what I'm saying here might be wrong, but it might be right. I don't know if they sink or float yet. We're going to clean and dry the graduated cylinder between each key step and repeat steps 1 through 13 for simulated glass samples B, D, and F. When all the tests are completed on the 4 types of beads, you're going to complete the flowchart on the Density Principles worksheet. The flowchart should depict a complete strategy for identifying beads types A, B, D, and F. All right. Now, if it had sunk, instead of, we're going to go to 6, back to 6. If it had floated, we're going to remove the beads from the water and blot them on dry paper towel. Pour the water out of the graduated cylinder and dry the inside of the cylinder with a paper towel. Carefully pour exactly 20 milliliters of isopropyl alcohol into the graduated cylinder. So we're going to start with a very low density. Place the beads in the alcohol and hopefully they're going to sink. Do they sink or float? Record this in the Density Principles worksheet. If the beads sink, which we hope that they are going to do that, we're going to use a barrel type pipette and add distilled water to the graduated cylinder in about 1 milliliter at a time, and we're swirling in between. And note when they start to float. We want to get them to float. How much water did it take to get the beads to float? What concentration, the mixture ratio of alcohol and water, caused the beads to float? Record this in the results in the worksheet. Okay. Then we're going to go down here. We're going to clean all the equipment thoroughly, around 16, and discuss your flowchart with your instructor or as a class. Now we get to test the unknown beads from the crime scene, determine which bead type was found at the crime scene, and consult your instructor for appropriate disposal procedures. So this is how we do this lab. Good luck. I think you got it. All right. Have at it. Bye-bye.